We are 51 days from the election, and together with their running mates, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are focusing on the states that will decide the next president, with the race apparently deadlocked after what could be the only Harris-Trump debate. But Donald Trump is also doubling down on a baseless claim that he made at the debate, that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating people's pets. Local officials and the state's Republican governor say there is absolutely no evidence of that claim, and they are warning it is actually hurting their city. Springfield, Ohio is facing a fourth day of threats over the claims that have forced a college, hospitals, and schools to lock down. Meanwhile, Springfield police say they received 2 calls about Proud Boys marching through the city. Here's how Donald Trump responded to the controversy over Haitians, who I want to note,
again, they're in the streets. We should be too.
Are in the U.S. legally.
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell.
Here with me now is Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance.
By the way, if you think that the way Trump talks is not the same as Hitler, I'm sorry, you're stupid. Like, I'll maybe we'll get into this too, but there are now some videos people have made where AI, here's an actual kind of cool use of it, gets Hitler's real voice and real speeches, but translates it into English so you can hear what he was actually saying. It's the same shit. Like, you know, I think the like Hitler side, the party, the leadership side of Nazism, has been focused on a lot, but maybe to the detriment of understanding the role of, the lumpen proletariat, of the petty bourgeoisie, and people like, these Nazis who march in the streets and come up with these fucking insane bullshit rumors that make their way up to the leadership. And you see how fast it is now. It's a direct line, possibly because this is where J.D. Vance is from too. But you see how just in a fucking instant, because you've got a Nazi party, you've got a fascist party in the Republicans, you've got a fascist strongman leader in Trump, you've got his lackeys like fucking J.D. Vance, whoever else, Tucker Carlson, Cat Turd, whatever. But speaking of Twitter, you have the backing of a major capitalist in Elon Musk and his, media platform. It's a news media sharing site, right? It's different from like Der Stürmer was like a fucking newspaper back in the day, but this is where this is the media we have now. So that's what's going on, and you need all of those levels.
Vance, who represents Ohio in the U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here, sir. So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Rob Rue, said, quote, all these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city. And it was their words that did it. Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people.
I love how they talk about Kamala Harris as if she's the president now, because they can't Like they can't really talk about Biden because they're not running against him. So they just have to sort of pretend Biden doesn't exist and that it's all Kamala. I mean, you know, I I think that Kamala's policies will be likely the same as Biden's, but as Trump's, yeah, but the same as Biden's. So I get that, but they don't even explain that. Like um, they just say this, and it's obviously bullshit too. Like this is not like uh, this is not real, and to the extent that any like overwhelming of hospitals or housing systems has happened, it's not because of migrants and because Biden loves migrants so much. It's because we don't invest in those things in the U.S.
people, and it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I could ignore.
What are the real ones? What are the verifiable ones? What did they say? What's actually happening? How did you gather the information? Like what do you know? Like, this is fucking insane.
Them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to
Show us.
my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the...
I love how she lets him say all of them uninterrupted for, what was that, 2 minutes? Minute and a half uninterrupted, just like, okay, yeah, get all of your lies out, and then we'll go over it. Like, fuck you. Just like cut them off. You have to cut these people off. You have to see Stephen Miller and who was the other one? Someone else too, but like they were approached by some journalist, and he was actually like challenging them, and they were so mad. They were so mad. They're such fucking babies. But you got to do that to this fucking baby-faced loser.
Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims.
Oh,
also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander. You're the senator from Ohio.
So it'd be nice to verify that shit too. Like, she's saying no one's disputing that the town needs help. Like, okay, do they? Like, tell me about that.
So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats of
happened.
violence.
Well, you can think it's disgusting and condemn it, and also be the source of the information that's driving people to fucking do it, you stupid bitch.
After you and
But to
President
say,
Trump
no, no,
were,
Dana,
on
no,
the,
Dana,
were on the
to
debate
say,
stage, said
Dana,
that
no,
cats and dogs
you asked,
were being eaten.
You asked a question,
And
Dana, and
after
I'm going to
that-
go ahead and answer it.
Okay,
What
after
we
that,
said,
they were
what
threatened.
we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now,
How?
you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protection.
True, Biden is likely not making any decisions. Yeah. He's at least being prodded towards making final, calls on things. Yeah, dude is lost. It's so great. I can't believe he didn't step down, to be honest. I mean, I think that I almost think that would have been ideal. Like, let Kamala be like, hey, I'm taking over and campaigning at the same time, and here's how I'll I mean, it would be ideal if she was going to change anything, but I guess she probably won't. So, never mind.
Protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the
But they're
border
not-
and further
but it's
caused
not illegal. You
terrible
might-
Yeah, I don't think that's. I don't know if that even counts as amnesty. I think it was probably just fuck. What do they call it? Refugee status. It was asylum. Yeah. It was just asylum status, right? Because that's the fucking thing, is that you have a lot of people requesting asylum. The biggest problem is like administrative. You just don't have kind of the court appointees, and you don't have the judges and like infrastructure in place to handle all the asylum seekers, which I think we should. I think we should ramp that up, and then also change our foreign policy to maybe reduce the number of asylum seekers. Like, not that we can't handle it. I think we probably could absorb most of anyone who wants to come into the U.S. But like, if you want to reduce it, then fucking do what will reduce it, which is changing our foreign policy, and not just leaving it the way it is and continuing to interfere in all these other countries and destabilizing them to the point where people are fleeing to what they think is a supposedly, I'm told, a more permissive society, which is the U.S. If you don't want that to happen, that's what you got to do. But we have a sickness in this society where everything is like everything's an enforcement problem, right? Everything's like, well, we got to crack down on it more. We got to be more draconian at the point of the entry, right? So like at the point of someone coming over the border, at the point of someone requesting asylum, at the point of someone committing a crime. That's the only way to deal with anything, right? We can never look at what's causing these things, because that, unfortunately, for capitalists, leads you to question capitalism and its methods.
Migration
You
into
might
this
be,
country.
you might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time, but the fact is, it is the law because
No,
President
Dana,
Biden
the point
and
is,
Vice
Dana,
President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about policy
Dana,
because no.
You made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what
which
I
is
want to
why
talk
you're talking
about,
other
I want to talk
distractions
about
instead of about the fact
Senator,
that Kamala
it was
Harris,
your
Dana,
distraction.
granted amnesty
You were the
at
one
a
who
mass
started
level.
talking
She
about
granted
eating
amnesty
dogs
at a
and
mass
cats.
level.
Well, you should be able to talk about policy, and push back on the fact that his stupid, racist, non-materialist view of the policy is inaccurate.
You were the one who
Dana,
brought this
my
up. The
constituents
president
were the
said
ones
it to
who talked about
60
eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about
Have
it.
you
and
been
it is
to
my
Springfield?
responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been to
ignores it.
Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
heard
ice
this?
cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since
Have
you've
I been in
gotten
the
these
last?
calls?
Have I been in the last
Like-
4 days?
No.
No.
God, it's so funny when like outright fascist, extremely online incel fucking weirdo dorks like JD Vance try to just shoehorn in the regular politician bullshit. It'd just be like, well, great small business owners like Jersey's Dairy or whatever the fuck he said. Like, dude, you're not doing small business as the backbone of our society shit. All right, you're literally Goebbels. All right.
No,
I'm
I haven't
talking
been in
about
the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people in
calls from the
Springfield, Dana,
constituents.
and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions.
shut up.
I'm happy to be
little
here to
bitch.
talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am, and I think that if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims that had racist undertones about people eating dogs and cats, I would, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them. As you know, I
actually a
am
pretty
very
good
grateful
answer. I'll
that you
give her
come
that.
on the show, as I am for other Republicans. But this is something that you're hearing from constituents. I did a lot of reporting. I talked to people in Ohio over the weekend, and they're really worried about these claims. The policies, yes, I am agreeing with you that what I heard is that there is concern that these migrants, there's a lot of them, and the integration isn't being done fast enough and well enough. And that's a totally legitimate conversation. But there are other conversations that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, that might be fair. It does sound like a lot, right? Like, what is it? They said maybe now it's 150,000 or so is the population of Springfield, and 20,000 of that is new, migrant communities, and it's okay. I mean, sure, that sounds like a lot of people to introduce into a place that would notice that amount of people. You know what I mean? Do that in New York City. And people make these claims about New York too, but I would imagine for the most part in New York City, you wouldn't really notice 20,000 people being added unless you're in specific places. But sure, if you're in the town of Springfield, Ohio, maybe you notice that. And who knows? They say well, a lot of these migrants are doing important jobs that we need done, blah blah blah. But maybe not all of them. Maybe not all of them have been able to find work. Maybe there's more work in some neighboring town that you should actually relocate some of them. I don't know, but yeah. So okay, fair. Maybe there's a conversation to be had, but we're talking about people eating dogs and cats, which is not happening instead. So we're moving rapidly towards pogroms. Um, Interesting comments. I like these first two are just like so generic. The fact that this race is close is just mind-boggling to me. Education has to be fixed in this country ASAP. This I would guess is a liberal, but who knows? This person, true leadership isn't about power, it's about service. Again, probably a liberal. Weirdly vague. The husband and wife asked for him to apologize for politicizing their son. He did not do it. Shows lack of character. Oh yeah, that's true. And I think that is in part 2 of this. Let's go on to that.
Aiden Clark, who is an 11-year-old boy who was killed in Springfield last year. It was a car accident involving a Haitian immigrant. You said that he was murdered. His father said that's not true. It was an accident. Here's what he said to you.
Politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump. They have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies.
Senator, he's asking for you to apologize. Will you?
Dana, first of all, my heart goes out to the Clark family, and I don't bring their son's name up because they've clearly expressed a preference for politicians to not bring their son's name up. I wish them all the best. I can't believe what kind of a tragedy they've experienced, but I'm still going to keep on talking about what the migrants have done to Springfield, Ohio, and what Kamala Harris's open border has done to Springfield, Ohio. And Dana, I think this illustrates the entire contrast between how we're trying to go about this debate and how a lot of the Democrats are trying to go about this debate. They're talking about 12 Proud Boys marching in Springfield, Ohio. They're talking about the frankly fake debunkings of a lot of these stories that are out there. I'm talking to my constituents and I'm hearing terrible things about what's going on in Springfield, and Kamala Harris's open border policies have caused these problems. The hospitals are overwhelmed, Dana. The schools are overwhelmed. The local services are completely overwhelmed. You have people who can't afford housing. Homelessness has gone up. Murders are up by 81% because of what Kamala Harris has allowed to happen to this small community. I'm going to keep on talking about that. Now, of course, we can criticize violence. We can also still talk about the problems that are happening in Springfield, and we should be able to do both those things simultaneously, Dana.
Just once and for all, you again started this in part by saying that, at which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana.
Oh, now it's a meme. Now it's a story. Now... So, how dare you say it's not true, Dana? This is real. People are fucking eating their cats. They're fucking taking people's cats and eating them. And then it's like, yeah, sure, it's made up, but you didn't talk about it till I made it up.
because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that
ought
you're
to be
creating
talking
a
about
story.
public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you
Yes.
created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not
We are
accurate.
creating. We are. Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my
you
constituents.
fucked up.
I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into
Dirk and
Springfield
Vance.
thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
Do you
Oh yeah. There's a reason that Cheney is happy to endorse Kamala. Yeah, because like fucking Cheney did not move left. Kamala moved right. That's what I've been trying to stress is that we need to understand the Republicans endorsing Kamala is because they see that okay, this Democrat, like this Democratic Party, is maintaining empire, at least mostly the way I want to, but in a way that brings more stability, whereas Trump just represents chaos to them. That's why they're endorsing them. It's not like putting country over party or fucking any of this fucking lofty ass bullshit that liberals say it is. With the ever-shifting rightward discourse, Dems will be proposing AI-powered machine guns on the border by the end of the decade. Yeah. I mean, look at shit that they're introducing in Israel. All right. And the really dark fucking thing about Israel is they will introduce weaponry that they sell. Like they sell weapons too, and they profit that way. Some of it's their own development. Some of it is what they get from the U.S. But they will market these weapons as battle tested because they're used on fucking Palestinian children and civilians. So go ahead and tell me it's fucking Hamas. Yeah, but they introduced a drone. There's like an automatic drone that with like AI targeting and firing capability. Yeah, there's like totally new. This is recent. Woke CIA drone pilot said this lady is a liar, Dana Bash. She didn't ask Kamala or Walz about the racist lies they've told to justify the ongoing genocide of Palestinians. True. Yeah. I mean, it's fucking insane. She's been, Dana Bash has been so bad on Israel. Like, she is so in the bag for Israel's fucking propaganda. Just look up her interview with Pramila Jayapal, the chair of the Progressive Caucus in the House. Like, she was ignoring Pramila Jayapal's focus on the rampant deaths of civilians, and just kept trying to bring her back to the fucking, even at that point, I think, disproven lies about sexual violence on October 7th. She's a nightmare.
condemn the Proud Boys, even if it's just 12, even if it's just one marching in Springfield?
Dana, I condemn all white supremacists. I'm obviously not. I'm married to a non-white person.
He's sharing lies made up by white supremacists. That's where this Haitian story comes from.
And I don't like these people, but I think that we have to keep our focus, not on 12 marchers going down the street, but on the fact that thousands of residents have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's policy. I find this very unusual, Dana, that the American media is more interested in a bunch of losers marching down the street than they are in the fact that Kamala Harris has made these people's lives worse. I'm not talking about 12 Proud Boys. I'm talking about 40,000 residents, 40,000 constituents of mine, many of whom can't afford housing and food because of Kamala Harris's open border. That is what I want to focus the media's attention on. We're going to keep on doing it because I think the American people deserve a government that puts their interests first. And can I make just one more final point about this, Dana?
Yes, please.
You've heard a lot of the media focusing on every possible distraction from the story in Springfield. You've heard them focus on these Proud Boys marches. You've heard just in this interview, Dana, the suggestion that because some psychopath is calling it a bomb threat, somehow we have to then ignore 40,000 Springfieldians
That's not what
who
I
are
suggested.
having their lives worsened by Kamala Harris's policies. Well, what is the implication, Dana? I actually love to have this conversation right now live.
The implication is that you say this shit with no apparent evidence. It came from a Nazi. I'm going to get to that in a second, by the way. It came from a literal, like an actual fucking, hey, I am a person who identifies as a Nazi. I'm a white supremacist. And the result has been violence and threats of violence against Haitian people. It's wrong. It's hate. It's incorrect. I mean, it's hateful, and it's creating new problems, real problems. And you go, well, that doesn't mean I shouldn't talk about it. That's the fucking implication, you stupid fucking piece of shit.
On air.
Right.
What is the implication when you say you calling out these problems has caused a bomb threat? You accused me of causing a bomb threat. Doesn't that mean you should shut up about the residents of Springfield? Don't you realize you're engaged in basic propaganda?
No, it means you should fucking watch what you say because you're a public figure, you stupid asshole. It means that you have a responsibility to tell the truth to the public. You have a responsibility to verify information that you go and share. Because, yeah, you did cause bomb threats. Like, sorry, if you didn't mean to cause bomb threats, like, too bad, you did. So what are you going to do now? What are you going to do about it?
Silence the concerns of American citizens?
I was
Please.
quoting the actual mayor of Springfield, Ohio, begging after the bomb threats, begging federal officials, to please stop putting negative attention on his city. And I'm not talking about the policies. I'm not talking about the very real challenges that Springfield has. I'm talking about baseless rumors about Haitians eating dogs and cats. And that, after that was said on a debate stage, that is when these bomb threats started. And that is a fact. Senator, I just want to move on. I have two other quick issues separate from this that I want to talk to you about.
Dana,
go ahead.
Again,
please, go ahead.
I think this is actually an important conversation.
Okay.
Look, the Springfield mayor, he's dealing with a lot.
Gotta love a motherfucker who stalls with that shit. I think this is an important conversation. Well, then shut the fuck up and have it.
Of terrible things. I certainly sympathize with the guy, and we're going to try to help him out. But he did not accuse me of inciting a bomb threat. He just didn't. And if we're going to take the firsthand accounts of people who are on the ground in Springfield, why don't you bring on some of the people on your program who say that the migrants are eating their pets? You're applying a double standard here. You're saying if one person accuses J.D. Vance, I'm going to take that person's word as the gospel truth,
you have somebody
even
whose
if you
name
misrepresent it. If you have another person who's saying they're eating the cats, you're going to completely ignore them, attack them, silence them, and harass them. That double standard is why the people don't trust the media and why we're not talking about public policy 51 days out from a presidential election.
Okay. If you have somebody you want to tell us about who has proof that somebody ate their cat, of course we want to hear that. We certainly have had no evidence that that is actually something that happened. And I just want to say, I have not accused you of anything. I am quoting the mayor who said, after these bomb threats, federal politicians are negatively spinning our city. They need to know they are hurting our city. It was their words that did it. Okay? That I'm quoting him, and it seems to be a
Dana,
cause and effect.
Roll the tape. You just accused me of inciting a bomb threat. There's no evidence of this. I condemn violence and threats of violence. We should be able to do that and also still talk about what's going on in Springfield.
I'm glad to hear that you condemn it. That is very important. We had a lot of other issues to get to, but I really hope that you do come back so we can talk about other issues. Senator, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dana.
Ugh, God. The two worst people you know going at it.